Lawyers of Reddit, what's the most cringy case you've had? I made an account just to share this story. We interviewed a middle-aged man who was poor and received food stamp assistance for himself. He had an emotional support dog, some kind of toy breed who was untrained, and most likely just his pet. According to him, the dog could only eat expensive organic whole foods and could not eat ordinary dog food. He applied for what basically amounts to food stamp assistance for his dog. The state granted the food stamp assistance for the dog. He came to us outraged because the amount of food stamp money he got for the dog did not allow him to buy the organic whole foods that the dog required. He wanted to appeal the food stamp decision and get even more money. We turned the case down. This resulted in claims of disability discrimination against everyone in the office who interacted with him. A woman wanted to charge her ex for stealing her indoor/outdoor cat. The cat had been gone for 2 days. When it returned, it smelled like cigarette smoke. Her ex was a smoker, so she thought this was plenty of evidence against him. I was defending. The plaintiff's case was dismissed for failure to state a case. Basically, under the law, they weren't entitled to any compensation. They appealed this decision and lost. They had a month to appeal. 3 months passed, and nothing. Then we get a notice that they're appealing. Half of their appeal was their attorney begging the court to consider the appeal because of how difficult his last 3 months had been. The difficulty? He moved across town 2 months prior and had been renovating his new house. Maybe not very cringy to the average person, but the audacity of blaming a 3-month delay on moving was something else. I rep. Mom of daughter. Mom's boyfriend did a bunch of grooming behavior including buying the daughter a lipstick, vibrator and lube. I recall the daughter was 12 or 13 at the time. The mother completely and utterly stood by her man and didn't care if it cost her custody of her daughter. Social services intervened. Child was removed and placed into custody of BO father. She retained me when BO father filed to terminate child support and have his own child support established. The woman was in her late 40s and wore ponytails on each side of her head and or braids on each side of her head and had them decorated like little girls have. She also wore, almost constantly, what appeared to be a Catholic schoolgirl outfit: tartan skirt, white shirt, low cut, and vest. It was as if she was trying to look like a little girl. I found her and her pedo boyfriend completely cringy. I defend corporations that fail to pay taxes. A company failed to pay millions in excise taxes. They blamed it on another newer company that came in as competition to their monopoly on a very narrow niche industry within a broader industry. The praise of this corpse is the new company for hurting his business. I told him it wouldn't work and wouldn't find a lawyer to do it. He hand wrote his lawsuit and it was thrown out because it was frivolous. As for my case, I saved him just over $1 million with the eyes in trust fund assessments. He is now on his 3rd attempt to sue me for not saving him more money. The previous 2 attempts failed because 1. I have an arbitration clause, 2. His company is now defunct, and 3. I performed our contract to the letter. He hand wrote those lawsuits too. He is essentially harassing me with lawsuits because he has nothing better to do now. I will smash him like a bug in court again, and round we go. The dead penis consult. Years ago I did pie work. Older man came in and wanted to sue because he took off-brand Viagra. You know the big warning about if the effect lasts for more than 4 hours go see a doc. Yeah, he did too. But he ignored it due to embarrassment. For 3 days. By the time he went in, blood had pooled, thickened, and completely destroyed his penis. They open it up, remove what needs to be removed. Tell him that was his last erection of his life. He is understandably bitter, but not much I could do, since he admitted to ignoring the warning. That's when he stood up, in my office, dropped trowel with no warning, and yelled that he should be paid for having to deal with his new dead situation. I asked him to pack up his situation and leave. Then I had a whiskey, and resolved never to ignore any medication warning ever again. My former boss wanted to take a botched penile implant case, but we convinced him not to because of the costs of litigation. The photos, my god, the photos. Mom and dad are immigrants who are self-made rich, $100+ million rich. They have 4 adult children. Child 1 is a well-respected physician. Child 2 is a college professor and successful author. Child 4 is a stay-at-home mom and socialite. Her husband is a seer in Silicon Valley. Child 3 is a scam artist, but even though Child 3 is mom's favorite, she recognizes him for who he is. The whole family live in California. Mom and dad have long-standing valid wills and trusts. About 15 years before, they paid a lot of money for bulletproof estate planning. Part of this was to ensure that Child 3 never had access to their money. He received a modest stipend. I think it was $5k/month for life, indexed to inflation, and that Child 3's kids, their grandkids, would be taken care of. Dad dies, and mom has early stage dementia. Less than 48 hours after dad dies, Child 3, representing himself, sues children 1, 2, and 4 in another state, where none of them live, because he didn't like the fact that 15 years earlier mom and dad wrote him out of the will, and that dad hung on long enough for his kids to graduate from college. Never mind that mom and dad paid for all 14 grandkids' college educations, so he doesn't have access to his kids' trust funds. My firm's senior partner and Child 1 were fraternity brothers in college, and we happened to practice in the state where Child 3 brought his suit. I'm successful in getting the case dismissed for a lack of jurisdiction. About 18 months later, Child 3 then finds out that children 1, 2, and 4 are limited partners in a real estate development in my state. He sues them for their part of the real estate development because they obviously invested mom and dad's money that he was entitled to. We are hired again and successfully dismiss that case. 3 years go by. It's now about 6 years from when dad died, and we find out that mom has died. Child 3 sues us, as well as children 1, 2, and 4, for medical malpractice. Only Child 1 is a physician in yet another state. His reasoning: because we had his cases dismissed and mom died. Then the fact that he lost his cases caused her to die. The fact that she was in her mid-80s and suffering from dementia couldn't possibly have anything to do with that. My wife's best friend is an attorney in the same city where the case against us was filed. I pro-hacked Vicin, temporary admission for a single case, and get this case dismissed. The best part? All told, we racked up well over $200k in fees and expenses from all of this frivolous litigation. He's been ordered to pay us all of our fees, plus interest from the date of the beginning of case 1. With interest, it's over $600k. We've garnished his stipend, so we are getting the $5k/month, which I now think is about $7k. It barely covers his interest. He's going to be paying us for the rest of his life, and we have a nice, guaranteed revenue stream. Man in his 50s is suing his female coworker about 30 years his junior. Woman just got married, but the man had a crush on her. He broke down and kept crying, confessing to stalking and sending her e-scale letters and maybe even breaking into her place. His lawyer has to work hard not to get him put in prison. Had to explain to someone in the military that getting caught while driving drunk 5 times will get your license revoked. And yes, your employer, the army, will also have a bone to pick. He was legitimately confounded, stating that he never got that drunk. God, I'm glad his license was revoked. Another police officer got in trouble for yelling "you little slut" to a 12-year-old girl who passed him on a bicycle. His defense: it was not meant to offend, it was a general statement. I don't practice, but I vaguely remember some case from professional responsibility class about a lawyer getting in trouble for throwing a tantrum. He was suing the Barbie company or something for allegedly stealing his doll designs, and at some point he started yelling and throwing doll heads at people. I took the class many years ago, so the details are pretty fuzzy. I just recall how pathetic I would feel if my behavior was literally put in the textbook as an example of being a shit attorney. Guy wanted to declare bankruptcy for gambling debts. They weren't even big debts. He just felt like they were too annoying in trying to collect on the debt that he wanted to stiff them by going through bankruptcy. I was defending a guy for DUI. He was delivering pizzas and caused an accident. He was admittedly drunk. The police officer failed to note the time of day on his notes, which meant the state couldn't prove his blood was drawn within 2 hours of the accident. So he walked free on a technicality, even though we all knew he messed up. I lectured him so hard outside the courthouse. You got lucky today, but next time it could cost you your life, or even kill someone else. He seemed to care, but I can never be sure. Had a client who wanted to set up a charity to preserve a mythical creature. Luckily I could argue failure to meet one of the 3 certainties as a reason why not, rather than the good old "you're crazy pants" defense. Just had an example case in class today, which my prof's friend acted as the defense for. Some first class airplane passenger tried to sue a non-first class passenger for trespass after they used the first class bathroom. Luckily the case was thrown out. Back when I was articling, we had a client come in wanting to get our help with divorce proceedings. This guy was Central Asian and spoke very little English and was functionally illiterate in both English and his native language. But the story this guy told gives me shivers to this day. We was on a work visa that was about to expire, so he married a Western woman in order to stay in the country. The woman he married was quite well off. In fact, her family were some of the richest people in the small town they lived in. So why marry some illiterate foreign rube? Well, the woman had been raped by her father when she was a preteen/teen. From what our client told us, it was consensual by both parties, but she was still a preteen/teen, so yeah, rape, Ike. This relationship with her father ended in her late teens when she started a similar relationship with her brother. The relationship with the brother, however, had been going on off and on for almost 15 years by the time she married my client. The problem was, the town was small and people were starting to ask questions about the siblings being so close. Ike. So the family's idea was to marry her off to someone really quickly to allay suspicion. They decided that my client was perfect because if he didn't do the trick in breaking up the brother-sister relationship, they could always ship the both of them off to my client's home country, which was what they ended up doing. After all this sacrifice to stay in the West, my client was shipped off home to live with his family and his new nymphomaniac wife. Now, in this time they had a child together. But almost as soon as the child was born, the wife started having an affair with my client's brother. After they were caught, the patron of the family very quickly sent them back to North America. Meanwhile, their poor child was being neglected by his mother, who was too busy banging my client's brother and cared for only occasionally and badly by my client, who was basically incompetent. While living with the family, the sisters, mother, and aunts mostly raised the child. But when they got back to North America, they had no such support system. The wife's family took them in, but none of them had any interest in raising this poor child. So the 2 parents were reluctantly forced to care for their own child. By the time the client came to us, it was a constant fight over who was injuring the child more and whether or not the child would be raised by a parent or given to child and family services. Deeply disturbing case. After the client left, my boss told us everything it said, that it was the first case in her career to really make her feel sad for humanity. Not a case, but my friend got a bunch of people in our home room to write fake/weird reviews on his dad's law firm page. It went on for a few weeks, and after they had hit the 600 review, his dad said something. Turns out that his dad wanted to sue every kid in the school for posting the reviews. Friend got suspended for almost 6 months.